Scale, exit, repeat. Travel hacks for everyone, entrepreneurs, creators, and travelers, nomads, digital nomads. I don't care who you are. Today, we're talking about travel hacks on The Complete Entrepreneur. And our host is Michael Gilmore, who comes to us from Australia. And this is a show that we run live on Clubhouse every Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern. And it is a show that really tries to get into the personal entrepreneur, to try to get inside who we are as individuals and how we can succeed as a startup, how we can succeed as found. It's not easy. So often we talk about in business the formula for success, but we don't talk about the human side of it. And today we're going to break it down, all these hacks of how to travel. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're working for a startup, if you're a professional, you're going to love this show because Michael Gilmore, who's our host, he just joined us now, penned an article for startup.club. And it's, by the way, it's number one on Google, by the way, Michael, for the topic, travel hacks for entrepreneurs.
That's right.
Number one on Google. It's their number one hit right now on this article. They published 5 days ago. So I'm thinking, Michael, this is a very interesting topic. We'd love to hear from people from the audience to come on stage and share with us their travel hacks. But I thought we could just start with you talking about your article. And if you've got it there handy, I don't know if you do or not, or just go to startup.club, you can pull it up. And I'll pin it up the top of the screen here as well. But I'd love to hear from you, Michael, just those 15 travel tips. I've got a few in my own back pocket here, and I know there's others in the audience who have some too. But I'd love to hear from you just to talk about that article and go through it. And maybe as we go through it, Michael, you give me an opportunity to comment on a few of them as well.
Of course, I can just say it really is. For those of you who don't know, I'm from Melbourne, Australia, way down under. As I like to say to people, one of the problems with Melbourne, Australia is it's a long way from everyone. But one of the great things about Melbourne, Australia is it's a long way away from everyone. But it brings up the whole point of, yeah. So it brings up the whole point of just travel. If you want to go long, and if you live in Melbourne, Australia, and you want to go to anywhere in the world, yeah, you're traveling a long way. And it takes a long time. So I developed a whole series of hacks. And by the way, Colin, I think after I wrote the article of 15 business travel tips for entrepreneurs, I thought to myself, you know what? I think I got another 20 or 30 to go. Yeah, but anyway, so we'll unpack some of those here. But it'd be great to have you up on stage, for any of you in the audience, and just share some of your travel experiences, your travel techniques and everything to survive travel. So a few things for me. Number one on the list, absolute number one, only take carry-on luggage. Never check on anything. Never, ever check on. Yeah, you get to the other end and you just walk out of the airport. Or if your plane gets delayed, you can jump on another plane and you'd have to get your bags pulled off or something like that. I got to tell you a story. A colleague and I, in fact, he may be in the audience. I should check. Matt, if you're there, put your hand up and come and join me up here because you have a lot of these travel hacks as well. What happened was that we'd just been on a round the world trip and we've done about 20 flights. And we finally get to San Francisco and on our last flight home. And I'm thinking to myself, oh man, if we got a 5-hour layover or something like that here, it's just going to take forever. And I'm walking past the list of flights leaving as we entered the club. And I've become really good at this. In fact, my wife says to me, you're scarily good at this. I can just glance down the list. I know my flight, I'm off. But as I glanced down the list, I noticed there was another flight back to Melbourne and it was leaving earlier. And we went up to the counter inside the club and said, look, is there any chance we can jump on that flight? And the first question she asked was, do you have any check-on bags? We both said, no. She said, oh, fantastic. She talked a little bit more. She said, sir, I moved you to that earlier flight. And by the way, you don't have to go through Sydney. It's a direct flight to Melbourne. And let me tell you, you'd see two grown men become delirious, like with joy. Man, we were hugging each other, the tears coming out the corner of our eyes. We can't believe we're going to be coming home after all this time and everything. Of taking one flight and then a hotel, another flight and a hotel, another flight, and so forth like that. And it was one of those joyous experiences. And so never, ever do check on bags. If you're doing it on a business trip, let me tell you.
I like where you're going with this, but let me ask you about liquids. Like, how do you handle toothpaste and mouthwash and
It's
aftershave or
really simple.
shaving cream
Really simple.
and maybe a few other exotic things?
Really simple. Everything is below 100 mils, which is, I don't know how many ounces that is. Everything's below that. So you can buy toothpaste like in 90 gram tubes or something like that. And you can
So
do
like that
all
section
different,
in the drugstore where you
yeah,
like have all the
yeah,
travel and you buy a little this,
all the
little
travel
that.
stuff. You never ever take more than that. And so to the extent, like just with carry on, I traveled with another guy one time, and I always make it very clear: anyone who travels with me, only take on. And he said, no, I only take carry on. No, sorry. And he took a check on bag. And I just waved goodbye to him at the airport. I went straight out and I said, I'll see you back at the hotel. I got back to the hotel. I had my shower. I was down meeting people in the lobby before the conference and ready to go. He just arrived. Yeah. Another way of doing this is that at every hour you spend away from home costs you $200 an hour, regardless of whether you're awake or you're asleep. And that's the way I view it. So I'm spending $4,800 a day, whether I'm awake or whether I'm asleep. Therefore, the time I have, I'm going to be absolutely doing everything I can to maximize that time. And it's actually really important. Well, the other thing, a funny story is my former business partner went up to the check-in counter. And the lady said, yes, I can see you going to London, sir. He said, yes, I'd like my bag to go to Johannesburg, please. And the lady behind the counter goes, I'm sorry, sir? Says, I'd like my bag to go to Johannesburg and I'm going to London. And that lady is, I'm sorry, sir, but we cannot do that. And he responded, but you did last time. And so I really and truly, when you let your bag go out of sight, you're playing Russian roulette as far as I'm concerned on a business.
A lot of
Your
people put air
bag,
tags now. Air tags is a little bit of a hack there.
it doesn't matter. Great. You know where your bag is in the world. It's in Johannesburg. You're in London. What do you have to now do? You have to now spend
Okay, so you're
whole
telling
time.
me, because you're Australian and you travel around the
Yeah.
entire world, and I've seen you do this, but I've
Yes,
seen
you
this
see me do
firsthand.
it.
By the way, he's not making this shit up, by the way, everyone. So I've seen him do this. He comes in with this tiny little suitcase. I don't know how he does it. He's got what, like one suit, like I don't understand how you do this. And you go to these 8 conferences in a row and like, you're just
Yeah.
traveling from one to another. Like, how do you do this? Like, how can you possibly manage it all with one tiny little suitcase?
Yeah. Look, it's all about the way you pack and the way you think about your trip. Number one is if you're going from one city after another, which is what I typically do, maybe you spend 3 nights in one city maximum. Because I'm at a conference or something like that. So I'm just go. So you can afford, if you lose your cash, you're done. That's all there is to it. You're just absolutely done. Yeah, because you have to pay to spend time going to the department store, trying to buy clothes, and then you got to buy what do you do for shaving, then you got to buy shave. It just goes on and on, right? Yeah, that when you take that mentality, you say to yourself, okay, so I've got to now pack it in layers. What I mean by layers is that, like for this recent trip, I was in Toronto where it was snowing, and I was in Miami where I was swimming. So you have to, you got to pack in layers. The other thing, people think, oh my God, Toronto is so cold. Ask yourself a simple question on a business trip: how much time do you actually spend outside? Maybe 10 minutes as you go from the car to the hotel, or if you have to walk a little ways to a restaurant. You don't need to take that great big coat. You just don't need it. So don't take it.
So my wife has a coat she got from
Yeah.
Marks and Spencer in England.
Beautiful
And
coats.
oh, and no, but listen, it's like this huge like winter coat, but it shrinks down to like a pill. I should take a picture of it and post it on your article that you did there.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It shrinks down to a pill, and it's fascinating how small. Like a cat. Remember those old sleeping bags? And they shrink down. It's amazing how small it can get. So you can still have a jacket in a small little footprint.
Yeah. The other thing I do is you travel with layers. So I always take a cashmere sweater, and I typically choose like black as a cashmere because black goes with everything. And I take cashmere because it's really light. It packs down to nothing. 100% cashmere. This it packs down to nothing, but when you put it on, it looks good, right? And it's really warm on the plane, so if it needs to be warm, and it breathes really well. So I take cashmere. The next thing I do is I typically take, we have actually corporate jackets. So I'll take a corporate jacket with branding on and that sort of stuff. Or if I'm not taking that, depending on the conference I'm going to, I'll take a sports coat, like a blazer. So the blazer can go on top of the cashmere sweater, which I'm then wearing branded, 99% of the time I'm wearing branded polo shirts underneath. And that's very acceptable nowadays for just about every business meeting you can think of. The other thing I do is for shoes.
Michael, talk about that, because at paw.com, I remember going to a conference, and one of the guys that came, so he's like younger fellow, he's in his 20s. He's got his fancy, he's got his like suit, and or make himself look like real, he's in style and everything, like Jason here, like a young guy like Jason, right? So he's a real styling Jason. And we go to the cocktail hour, and understand the dog show in Orlando is 20,000 people. It's huge. And you go to the cocktail hour and you just bounce around. We wore paw.com shirts, all these bright blue paw.com shirts with logos. And he was like a major person in the company, and he thought that wasn't very cool. And he shows up. And so do you think anybody remembers him wearing this? Jason, do you think anybody remembers this guy wearing this like suit jacket and looking like very cool and suave and like James Bond? Or do they remember the tacky paw.com t-shirts?
Yeah.
Makes sense. If you have your own company, I remember like Nike, I think Michael Jordan got paid a lot for all of the Nike ads, and everybody had the Air Jordan stuff. But look, unless you're Michael Jordan, you need to wear your own brand. So I remember when they were saying, I'd like to be like, I said, forget that. I'd like to be like Bill. And I worked at Microsoft, but now I don't work for Microsoft. I work for freedomacademy.com. So we have freedomacademy.com shirts. I do the 3-decade challenge. So we have 3decadechallenge.com shirts. If I don't believe in that, how are you going to get other people to buy your product if you don't believe enough in your product to wear your own shirts?
I completely agree with you guys on that. Like the number of companies I've seen that go to a trade show or something like that, and their staff don't have shirts on. I'm thinking, give me a break. Like it's the convener of the conference said to you, it's going to cost you $5,000 to put your name on this side of the wall over here with a light on it or something like that. You probably pay it. Just pay for the flipping $20 shirts that are branded, and you can have everyone walking everywhere. I'm even thinking about taking my whole staff to the next big conference and have them all dressed up in all the corporate gear, and so therefore we'll own that conference. Yeah, it's just they're walking billboards there. Yeah, but anyway, okay. So in terms of packing, anyway, just we're getting back to the topic here. In terms of packing, the other thing I wear is you wear black running shoes. And the reason why you wear black running shoes is no one really looks at your shoes, by the way. Number one. Number two is they're quite acceptable to wear with some chinos or something like that or whatever. They're very acceptable. And
well, it depends on the industry too, right? Like I was at Hostopia telecom industry. It was a little different. We had to have those crispy, clean shoes and suits, and it was a little different. Like it depends on the industry, right? You're in the tech industry. You get away with not wearing the suit and tie thing.
Colin, I have to say for Michael, I was just listening to the other ones, but I do this now, Colin, I have to say, because I hate having to change my shoes. And when you're traveling, it's just a pain to travel with dress shoes. I don't travel with dress shoes anymore. I just wear black, and you can't tell whether they're running shoes. You can't tell whether they're dress shoes.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? And it's perfect. You can go to a suit thing. Listen, I'll tell you, there's one funny story. I went to this U of T entrepreneurship conference, And these are the younger generation, because I already graduated a long time ago, 2001. But I went to this in 2025 or something. And because I paid for playing basketball, it was just after my $1 million sale and exit. So I was there and I was like ready to travel around the world. I was liberated. So I had finished playing basketball and they showed up in my shorts and running shoes, probably white running shoes. Okay. And they're like telling me afterwards, I'm like I'm crazy. They're like, this is a suit thing, Jason. People were like wondering why you're just like, I was retired with $1 million exit. I'm free to 45 guy. You guys are trying to get jobs. That's why you're in suits. I'm hiring. I don't have to dress in a suit, but it was out of place. But I said, you understand. You're like I was when I was 22. I just retired at 45. I don't have to dress like you. You guys have to dress to impress me. I don't have to dress to impress you. I just get for basketball. I fit my running shoes. And I stuck out like a thumb though.
Completely agree with you there. And so I wear my black shoes and they're comfortable. Everyone else is saying, oh, my feet are killing me and everything like that. I'm good. That means I don't take any other shoes with me. I do take some flip-flops with me. Just in case something happens to my shoes or something like that, I've got something I can wear because flip-flops take up no space in your bag, really. And I've done this before. The other thing is this. People say, oh, but what happens if? Now think about what you're doing when you go. Like, they say, I may need another pair of shoes. Let's call a credit card. Just go and buy another pair of shoes. If you just the shop down there, if you really have to, the extreme example, just go ahead and do that. So
I actually just came back from shopping, Michael, because I would refuse to pay $150 for my extra luggage bag with my extra clothes from Vancouver to Toronto. So I'm just shopping. I got that $150 and I'm shopping.
I completely agree with you there. But anyway, so that's for a start. That's number one. Only two.
Yeah. This is number one. We got to get to number two. There's a lot more hacks
exactly
when it comes to traveling than your underwear, Michael.
The other, I'm jumping forward to a few of these. The other thing to think about is when you're planning your schedule, make sure you're in a 5-star hotel for a few days somewhere and make sure it's not across the weekend, at least. By the way, I know
we have to talk about this one because the editors looked at this one and they had some challenges with it. We edited a little bit here on your article because I don't think we quite understood. Mimi didn't quite understand what you were referring to here because not everyone can afford a 5-star hotel, and doing your laundry in a 5-star hotel can be very expensive. From my personal experience,
who cares?
Tell us what you're thinking.
In terms of the overall cost, I use laundry service. In terms of the overall cost to the complete trip for me, is about 0.01%. I may spend $100. I know on a per item things like to get your shirt done, so you probably almost buy a shirt for the cost. I don't care. It's 0.01% of the cost. So I go along and I work out when I can go and get some laundry done. By the way, sometimes you can't, with which case I hand wash my clothes. And so I make sure that like our polo shirts for the company, for instance, you can hand wash them, hang them up, and then look great afterwards. No ironing. The other thing is no ironing. Do not take anything that requires ironing. That's a waste of your time.
All right, let's get out of clothes. How do you get through an airport? Like, do you remember that movie?
Oh my God.
Maybe Jason, you remember the movie? I don't know. It was the movie about the way they go. Listen, I loved it because I do the same thing. You go to the security line and you put your shoes up first. Always put your shoes up first because when you get to the other side, you want to put your shoes on when you get to the other side. Put your shoes on first. Put your laptop in here. Just that everything was like pre-planned before you go through that scanner. And of course you want global entry and in your case, the other things, APEC.
Yeah.
So can you talk about that?
Yeah, look, security is an interesting one, or going through an airport. If something happens to my brain when I get in the airport, I go to the security line and I'm like a machine. I just have all the stuff ready and all that sort of thing, and I'm gone. So I was traveling with my family one time and we're on vacation. And I just go through my motions. I do my stuff, and I was the first one live, so the kids could follow me and everything like that. This is a few years ago now. And I'm just off. I am gone. And I hear this voice. And I'm going, I recognize that voice. Hang on. And I turn around and my family was like 50 meters behind me. And something happens to my brain in the airport. Like I do everything I can to get through the airport. And anyway, so finally my wife came to me. She goes, look, we're on vacation. Don't ever do this again. So I'm like, I'll leave them behind. But yeah, there's a few things about this is going through an airport. Number one thing is make sure you have a global entry card. You get TSA pre-clearance if you can. I can't get those things, by the way, being from Australia. So I have a thing called an APEC card. An APEC card, when I come to LA, for instance, allows me to go in the crew line. So I bypass all the immigration mess, go in the crew line. And I got, 2 or 3 people in front of me and I'm through. Because everything is about speed, like getting through to the other side. Because remember, it's $200 an hour, whether you're asleep or whether you're awake. And so I do that. The other thing is when you're traveling and I have 2 bags with me. One is my laptop and all that sort of stuff. And the other one is for my personal items, clothes and so on. And my laptop, I travel with the lightest bag you could ever think of in terms of the lightest stuff in the bag. So I travel with the Microsoft Surface, for instance. You may have an Apple or Mac or something like that, but it's the lightest. Everything is about weight with me. When I chose this bag, by the way, it took me 45 minutes at the store before I chose it. I was so particular. I was going through everything. And I've become very regimented how I pack my bag. I know where everything is at all points in time. I go and make sure that everything goes back in exactly the same spot. I'm fanatical about this. And I've seen some people, when they pack their bag, they just shove stuff in it. I'm thinking, what? That's just nuts. So with the result, I know where everything are, all my plugs and all that sort of stuff, and I should move on to plugs maybe. Your power plugs, like in this last trip, I had to have 4 different types of power plugs. And I'd already researched that beforehand, obviously, so I made sure I had the adapters and all that sort of thing. So I have a bag just for plugs and chargers and that sort of stuff. The other thing I travel with is noise canceling headphones. Really important to travel with noise canceling headphones. And if you get the big over ear ones that sit across your head, like some people like those, I can't stand them. So I find they make my head really hot. So I get little tiny inner ear ones. I actually have 3 sets of headphones that I travel with, and they're all minuscule in size. And the inner ear ones, noise canceling. The biggest stress on your body on an aircraft is the noise. That's the biggest stress. You want to eliminate the noise, particularly from the person who's sitting next to you, wants to have a good conversation. No, I'm just joking. Yeah, I'm always very polite with the people on the plane. There's no points for being
The difference
rude.
between being polite and actually saying, "Hey, why are you traveling?" And give me, I don't know. I'm not a social person, so I don't know what the lines are. Like
The
using
answer
a
is
plane.
yeah.
What are the lines? What lines do you use on a plane to talk to someone? I don't know.
Yeah. So the person next to me or something like that. Depends how the plane's configured on your business class. I now do business class long hauls, but domestic I just do, and the country I just do economy and that sort of stuff. But I always introduce myself, said, look, we're going to be spending the next 3 hours together. Hi, my name's Michael. It's good to meet you. Are you traveling home? And they said, no, I just a business or pleasure. And what line of work are you in? Yeah, and you just listen. And I met this person, it was a senior person, actually out of Microsoft, Jason, and that opened up quite a number of doors. That was useful. I've sat next to the Minister of Trade for Australia plane. I've sat next to like the CEO of the biggest banks in Australia as well.
Well, Michael, do you all have 10 people that live in Australia? He's everybody. No, I'm just joking. I got you as big as the United States either. It's like we've had everybody that travels with us.
Yeah, so I said hello to all the people in Australia, and I decided to. It's a bit like that, but yeah, so it's quite small. But yeah, so it's the other thing to actually realize is the person you're sitting next to is you will never see again. That's actually quite a liberating thought. So for one of the things that, particularly when I was traveling in economy, a lot of long hauls, like I think one of the worst flights I did was around the world in 14 days with 2 conferences and one in Europe, one in the US. And I don't know how many flights, it was all economy. It was grueling, that trip. But the thing you realize when you're in economy is you'll never see that person again. So I'll just say to the person, there's actually a better seat just back there for you. Like if you're sitting jammed up next to someone, because I found if I could get a seat next to me, it made the trip so much better. And I'd always recommend to the person a better seat. I'd always do that. The other thing I would do is before the plane took off, the first thing you do is you go to the club or something like that, airline club, and you say, is there a position on the plane where I got a spare seat next to me? I don't care where it is. I just want a spare seat next to me. And if they go, oh, there isn't one, and you need to understand the way an airport works. An airport is a sausage factory. All they want to do is push you through to the next person. Finally, they'll tell you, check at the gate, which is your last protocol. So I always checked at the gate. And sometimes you got moved to a better seat, very rarely. So if I get on the plane and before the plane takes off, I would walk around the plane and the door is going to be closing soon. And if I saw 2 seats which were vacant next to each other, I would just dump a whole lot of my stuff on one of the seats. The reason why is I've claimed that seat now. Yeah, and no one on the plane is going to move your stuff. Trust me, they're just not going to do that. So I claim the seat and I'll just move to that seat. So I've got a spare seat next to me. Or I'll suggest to the person next to me, why don't you move across there? So you're that person you're so worried about hurting their feelings. When you're on a 15-hour flight from Melbourne to LA, you be polite, but ultimately you're trying to go along, conserve your energy because you're about to be released out of the gun to meeting after meeting. For instance, when I stepped off the plane in LA in this recent trip, I stepped off into 4 meetings, one after another. So I was all about conservation of my energy and making sure I rested. So the next thing is sleep on the plane. View a plane as a hotel room. Do not view it as, oh my gosh, let's take a look at these movies. Let's look at this TV show. Let's look at this, that. No, they're for you to sleep. If you can't sleep on a plane, then close your eyes and rest. And when I look at people when I flow with colleagues, they say, oh, I just can't sleep on a plane. They're looking at them watch movies and everything. I said, no wonder you're watching movies. Just stop it. Just close your eyes, put your seat back, and rest. Because at the other end, you're going to be really happy you did that. Yeah, I remember another time I had, in 14 days, I only had 11 nights of accommodation booked. Because the rest of the time I was on airplanes. Yeah, so I had to sleep. You have to sleep. So particularly on the outbound, on the outbound flights, I sleep or I work. That's exactly what I do on those flights. But coming back home, I give myself a bit of slack and I may watch a movie coming back home. But 9 times out of 10, I don't watch movies at all because I know what it's like. And every second of sleep is really precious. Which just on sleep, if you're sleep deprived because of jet lag, and by the way, in this last trip I was on is probably the worst trip I've ever experienced for jet lag. I was only spending a day or 2 in any time zone. And I was moving on. I was moving on by 3 to 6 hours. It's a new time zone. And so sleep is really precious. So the other thing that I would highly recommend entrepreneurs develop as a way to relax, some people call meditation. So I can lie on the bed in the hotel room. I set my alarm for 15 minutes to 20 minutes. And I can be in a deep sleep within about 30 seconds. And I'll wake up refreshed.
Wow.
Yeah,
You need to
yeah.
put that in a book. That's a gift. So that's really good.
In about 30 seconds, probably at Colin's house.
I've done like a
Quite all
2-day.
right.
Have you done how long have you spent in an airport, for instance?
Oh yeah, but this last trip, for instance, I was coming back from Rust, Germany, so I had to go to Rust, which is rural Germany. I had to get to Frankfurt, and Frankfurt to London to Toronto, and I had to spend the night there in Toronto. So I went to the hotels. I always get the hotel which is attached to the airport, so that I don't have to take a cab or something like that, and I can just walk. And yeah, so I do that. So and then I get an early flight. The other thing with your flights is to understand is when you finish your meetings for the day, I don't care what time of night it is, whenever they finish, okay? Take the flight to your next destination. Because you know what? You'll get on the plane, you'll get to the next destination. You don't have to worry about, am I going to get there on time and all that sort of stuff. You get to the next destination and you get to the hotel room and you go to sleep and you get up and you have to and get it in the hotel near the traffic. Because if you're traveling late at night, there's not going to be any traffic late at night. But if you travel in peak hour, then you don't actually know how much time you need to allocate to get to your meeting or something like that if you got to take transport. So I always take the flight. So I'm always in the city where my next meeting is. I do whatever I can to do that. There's a funny story. One time we flew into Oklahoma City. It's the first time one of my colleagues was with me. He organized all the trip and everything. And we get to Oklahoma City. We jump into a cab. This is about midnight. And it was the most horrendous cab drive I think I've ever had. For a start, the guy wouldn't move until he had provided his personal address to the cab driver where he lived in Australia. Of course, it was invented, and so the cabbie didn't have a clue. But then the cab driver took off, and we went to some dingy motel, which I'm sure they rented the rooms by the hour. And I went into my room. There was bullet holes in the wall, and the sheet was ripped, and all this sort of stuff. And this horrendous experience. But it was like 8 in the morning was when we got there. And I said to my colleague the next day, I said, only brand names, which is really important. Only stay in brand name hotels that you recognize.
Michael, I learned this the hard way.
Off. Yeah.
I stayed in Airbnb. I didn't know what. I went to visit my friend in Georgia. I almost proposed. So
Yep.
it was my girlfriend at the time. Okay, but she didn't end up becoming my wife. But I was visiting her in Georgia, and I stayed over there 2 weeks, and then she only had a 2-week limit in her condo, so I had to book. I just figured, I'm going back to Toronto soon. I'll just through Florida. I'll just book at the closest Airbnb. Big mistake. It was across the street from like a gang hideout or something in the park, because of kind of parks where everybody's doing drug deals and stuff, and it was terrible.
Yeah. And there's those sort of things that can happen when you end up traveling. The other thing with hotels is I always sleep with the curtains open because I want the sun on my skin as soon as possible.
You can't do it there.
Yeah, clearly not there. That's right. The other thing, if I could possibly do it, is open a window. The thing I find is when I'm traveling, particularly in winter in the northern part of North America or Japan or somewhere like that, is they heat their hotels up so much. So the first thing I do is put the air conditioner on. The second thing I do, if I can, I open a window if you can. Most of the time you can't nowadays. Or I've turned off any sort of heating and open the window. That's the ideal. So I did that recently in London as well. I find the rooms around my room heat my room up quite nicely. Thank you very much. Yeah, and you wake up a lot fresher with it.
But isn't the worst when you don't have good air conditioning? I've been China, I went to China 14 times,
Oh,
right?
you got to have good air conditioning. You got to have good.
You got to tell me about your air conditioning story. I remember that one.
And the air conditioning there was a heat wave in Cologne, Germany. And it was actually, my wife was with this time. And the hotel room we're in did not have air conditioning. And it was a nightmare. I didn't realize that beforehand, by the way. It didn't have air conditioning, which is actually reasonably common in European countries. They don't have air conditioning. So watch that one. And so we opened up the windows. The problem with opening up the windows, we're at a major intersection. So it was just cars going the whole night, honking horns and everything like that. And it was really hot. And that was not good. My colleague who was with me, he was a few floors down from us, and he did have air conditioning. Yeah, I'm thinking, oh, Scum, you should at least change rooms with us, but nah, he wouldn't do that. But yeah, so I always sleep with the curtains open. The other thing is when you get into a hotel room, I've seen people go into a hotel room and it's like their bag explodes into the hotel room. They have stuff everywhere in here. Like you can leave them for a few days, there's everything. So you gotta repack everything. And I'm looking, I'm going, this is completely nuts. I'm really regimented. I know that there's gonna be a little desk there. I know there's a bedside table. So the bedside table put more charging stuff on it. Why? So I can see the time and everything like that. When I wake up and my phone's there and everything. My computer's on the desk. My bag goes on a seat, or if there's a trolley there for bags and things like that, like a place for them. And everything is completely regimented. The reason why is because I'm not running around the room thinking, oh, where did I put that thing?
Yeah,
It's just-
I feel like we make good progress today.
Sorry?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it's really, really important. The other thing I found is when I first started traveling for business, I used to get back and I would get sick after every trip. And I then became fanatical about what I did, particularly on aircraft. For instance, I assume that little tray table, if they got a tray table or something like that, it's like a petri dish, right? It's got every disease known to mankind on it, including probably Ebola or something like that. It's like you touch that thing, your hands are contaminated. Thank goodness you have skin, put it that way. But if you touch it, don't touch your face. Really important. So I become like fanatical about it. And because they don't, in a plane, boils at a different temperature at altitude. If you're thinking, okay, I'm having boiling water because I'm having a cup of tea or coffee or something like that. No, it's not at 100 degrees Celsius and killing all the microbes. It's not at that. It's actually boils. I don't know the exact temperature, but there's different pressure. So I never have tea and coffee on a plane. The reason why is because they typically get the water for tea and coffee out of the tanks on the plane. The tanks on the plane have not been, in some airlines, have never been cleaned since the plane left the Boeing factory. And it's been found over the years, there's like algae in these tanks, there's all the horrible stuff. So don't drink the water on the plane unless it comes from a bottle. So if someone walks around with a jug of water, and the stewards or something like that, say, would you like to fill up your cup? Don't take it.
And Michael, like when I was like doing the editing of the article, because I had me edited, I did too, and I added a couple extra lines about your friend, which is me. Like we had this family who had good watermelon from Mexico once, and oh my gosh, we all got sick, very sick.
Yeah.
Because it retained the water from the region. And then also when I go to Ukraine, for instance, we have offices in Ukraine. And what I do is even brushing my teeth, I use bottled water.
Correct.
Yeah. So you have to be very thorough. And salads, bottled water, and anything retains water.
Yeah. Never
Like,
have
you know,
salads.
You have to be very careful.
If you're
Ice.
We're in Colombia, Jeff
Okay.
France, and we had cocktails with ice. And we
Yeah.
got so
No.
effing sick.
Yeah.
It was not funny. Thankfully, it was after we arrived at home. And we both came in 3 days later. We're like, are you okay? We're looking at each other. No. Are you okay? We're like, no. It lasted for 2 weeks. It's called Montezuma's Revenge.
Yeah, we don't need details. But yeah, but pretty much, I think what Michael's saying is right.
On both ends. But yeah. So, and a lot of people don't think about water. The other thing is this: when you're traveling for business, like the funniest thing I've ever done is brush my teeth for Perrier. The amount of froth you get from brushing your teeth for Perrier is like extraordinary. Like, I feel like your whole mouth is exploding then. But if you're in the shower, for instance, close your mouth and close your eyes. When I get into a hotel room, the other thing I do is I turn the hot water tap on, full blast for about 5 minutes. One of the first things I do. Because you do not know how long the water has been sitting in that pipe for. You just don't know. The worst experience I've ever had, I went to a conference where a whole lot of people got sick of the conference. And I got onto the plane to come home and I was getting sicker and sicker. And it's amazing what your brain can do. Your brain can hold your body together. It really can. Remember, my journey home is like 15 hours. let alone all the messing around with airports. So I get home and my wife looks at me as I'm sitting in front of the couch. She looks at me and she says, "You're okay." And she watched my eyes roll back into my head and I just began passing out. And my son actually grabbed me as I collapsed on the couch. And the strangest thing went through my head at that point in time. I was going, am I just faking this? But I had no control over my body. My body just said at that point in time, said, okay, my turn. You're now home. Brain, you can relax. It's my turn. I need just to rest. And I collapsed. And she was about to call the ambulance when I came to and everything like that. And it was just like, I was sick for, like you, Michelle, I was sick for weeks. It was really bad. But yeah, ever since then, I've never been sick.
There you go. Because you learned how to hack it. You're hacking it, right? No, I like one of yours about the hotel room story. And I had one with you said your friend in the article, which was me, but we flew in from a cruise from Europe into Miami, and I had not parked the car. My wife had parked the car, but she'd forgot where the car was. And we landed and she didn't know where the car was. And so we landed in Miami and we looked for 2-3 hours.
Oh my gosh.
2-3 hours.
Yes.
We couldn't find the car. We ended up, this is after a long flight. We ended up talking to security, whatever. And then we said, okay, they couldn't find it. So we went home. Next day we came back and picked up the car and figured out what happened with security. But take a picture of the parking spot. The other one was, Michael, you talk about hotel rooms. Like you can sometimes, you go to so many different hotel rooms, you don't know where to go.
I had no idea. Yeah. So I always take a photograph of they give you the key. They say, here's the key. And they put a little satchel. I have no idea what they put in the satchel. They write the number on it and stuff. And it's got the name of the hotel. I take a photo of that. Because when you're traveling for business, particularly, you're traveling in so many different hotel rooms. I'm lucky if I can remember the hotel, let alone the hotel room number. And so there's been many times I've come into the hotel, I think, yeah, this looks like my hotel. Okay. So what's the number? And I've got my room number in my phone. And it's really funny when you look at my journey in terms of my photos and things like that, you'll see all these just numbers, one after the other. Like sometimes take a photo of the room number on the door. And
I like to keep the room number with the card, and then I actually take my wallet, put it in the room, then take a credit card, put it in the card, take my driver's license, usually put it in the card, then I have the room key.
Sure, the door like you, Michael.
So I have a backbencher here in the room here first.
I get
Michelle Van Philborg, who's our host on Fridays at 2:00. But Michael, let's talk about the fun stuff, upgrades. You are the king of upgrades.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. Right now, I don't know, it's close to 2 million frequent flyer points or something like that. I don't know how many millions I've had over the years. I'm platinum in Oneworld, and I'm pretty sure I'm gold in Star Alliance, and which is, I view them as tags of shame, Colin. I really do. And,
aren't they really? Oh, look at me. I'm so cool. I left my family for 10, 20 years.
That's exactly right. No. It's funny. When I know I'm about to be flying, you ever remember that TV show 24, but they'd have the clock, they go, ba-dong, 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 like that. I feel like a few days before I'm leaving, my head goes into you're about to be flying mode. And I feel like that clock is counting down to it's like a doomsday clock. You're going to be taking a plane soon. And I view flying as something to be endured.
I said to my husband, I can't fucking watch this, I'm sorry, at night, because I can't sleep.
It's a great show. But I look at that, and it's funny when I travel with someone else who doesn't travel, and I look at them and they're so excited. And for instance, on this trip coming up, I'm traveling with my executive assistant, happens to be my daughter. And she's so excited to be traveling with me to San Francisco to this conference we're going to. And I'll look at her and I'll go, I remember being like that. I'm sorry, I'm not like that now. I'm just not. And so upgrades. So what do I do for upgrades? Number one is, if you're a particular startup stage of a business, what you do is you buy an upgradable economy airfare. By getting upgradable economy airfare, you then immediately, because you typically have a squillion points if you're traveling like me, you then put in for the upgrade. And then when you get to the club, if you don't get the upgrade, by the way, you get to the club, you ask them for upgrades. And by the way,
Wait, let me ask you a question. So,
Yeah.
what do you mean by an upgradable economy class? I don't think that most of us understand what you mean.
international airfares.
Okay, so it's not first
airfares.
class, obviously. It's business
go to the-
class, or
Yeah. So what happens is that you can get different classes of economy tickets, for instance.
okay,
And some are not upgradable, some are upgradable. If you get an upgradable, you pay a few $100s more, something like that, but
Okay.
it gives you the opportunity to be able to upgrade, say, to business class. And I've done this many times. I upgraded to business class. That when we first started out the business, like you're looking for every penny, right? You're saving every penny. Cash is king. Therefore, I'd fly economy, get an upgradable ticket, and I'd use my points to upgrade it to business. Don't use your points to buy the business class airfare. That's the worst thing you can do with points. And you're not getting the bang for the buck. You go along and you upgrade with points. Yeah. The next thing is quite often, if you get, depending on the flight, by the way, fly Tuesdays. If you fly Sundays, the plane will be full. And if you're coming back on a Friday, the plane will be full. Business people. So if you fly out of the normal zone times for flights, you're more likely to get the upgrade. Yeah. So if you don't get the upgrade,
wait,
go to the
Michael, does
club.
it say when you're purchasing your ticket?
Yeah, it does. It's upgradable or not. Yes.
It literally says. So, what does it say if it's not upgradable? Like, I'm thinking it doesn't say
Well,
those.
I'm just looking. I flew a lot
Yeah.
of Qantas and everything like that. So it just
Okay.
said not upgradable.
Yeah, I don't recall seeing that specific language on the American flights.
Yeah. So if you, the other thing you could do is, so you go to the club, you go for an upgrade then, because they have some more power. Remember, it's a sausage factory. This is the whole thing of an airport. And at the very least, and I've done this a number of times, particularly on domestic flights, I've gone to the gate and I said, how much for an upgrade? And they'll say, at times I've got an upgrade for $20. And suddenly I'm flying in business class and everything like that. It cost me $20. The schmuck next to me just paid like $500, but I'm good. Yeah. And because when the plane takes off, that seat is worth how much? It's worth zeros. They may as well get something for it. Yeah. I do all sorts of things, upgrade. The other thing I do is I use Expedia, I use Google, I use all sorts of different ways of tracking flights and getting alerts for getting discounted, like business class airfares and everything. We now have a specialist company we do a lot of work with, which what they do, they specialize in business class, business traveler airfares. So for instance, I've got Melbourne to San Francisco and back for, I'll see if I can convert it to US dollars, for about $4,500 US, which is incredible. And there's ways of doing that.
We're 4 minutes left, Michael.
Oh my gosh. I've only got a little bit.
I know, and we haven't even you said you got 50 more to go, and we're gonna upgrade. We'll update the article.
I can do
and-
another article of this.
Yeah, it's a great article. If you go to startup.club, check out the article. So it's pinned at the top of the room here. If you're listening to this in podcast, just go to startup.club or just type on Google travel hacks
Yeah.
for entrepreneurs. It's the #1 article on Google right now for travel hacks
Yeah.
for entrepreneurs. And Michael Gilmore penned the article. And Jason, thank you for joining. We don't have a lot of time left here, Michael, but you got to give us. Oh, we got.
Maybe a few more.
Okay, and then we got someone jumping on stage too last minute here. Hope
Yeah.
Nest as well. I do want to let you know that
Hello,
this is
hello,
exciting
Brother
news.
Collins.
Sorry, go ahead.
Greetings from Africa, Uganda.
Oh, greetings. Can you just hold on for 1 minute? Michael will jump down to you in a second.
Oh, all right. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Okay, yeah, no, the fine hope nest. So welcome to the stage, and it's good to hear from you. Love to get your thoughts
I'm
on this
glad,
topic
I'm glad,
on
brother.
travel hacks for entrepreneurs.
Oh, I wasn't ready for the topic, but at least I can contribute something.
Yeah, fire away. Over to you, Hope Nest.
All right,
Okay.
Michael, just keep rolling. Just keep rolling. But
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sorry,
no
he's
problem.
ready. He'll join in.
Okay. A few other things is protect your passport at all costs, and know At 100% of the time, always know where your passport is. I take a photo of it as well, and I always carry a photograph of the passport in a different part of my other bags. I have 2 bags because even if you got a photo, it helps you speed up getting a passport if you lose your passport. I also have a scan of it up in the cloud, in a secure area of the cloud, so I can always download that as well. I prepare my itinerary is in 2 places. My itinerary is in my Outlook, so it's in my phone, but I also have a physical copy because your batteries run on your phone, you're stuffed. So I have a physical copy as well, which summarizes in 1 page my itinerary, and I leave that 1 page with loved ones as well.
Okay, you're talking my language, Michael. I even get photos of my whatever, my colleagues or family that I have a copy of Colin's passport, Michael. I have a copy of my sister's driver's license. I'm like, I got your back here because you know what? One time I was traveling and I had my wallet stolen. Okay.
Yep, I've had that.
And thank God I had the foresight to like have a printout and a photo of my driver's license. And I have global entry and all that kind of stuff that we have here in the US. I'm telling you that, my friend, is your number 1 tip is have a copy, printout, and photo of your passport, your driver's license, and whatever else it is. And if you're traveling with other people, just do them a favor. That's like a loving thing to do because you know what? It happens.
Yeah, I was also robbed, so everybody down there knows it's not uncommon.
Yeah, so it's assume also when I look at my wallet, the first thing I do before I leave is I actually empty my wallet of everything other than the bare necessity of credit cards and things like that I need to take with me. I empty it. I then take one of the credit cards and I store it somewhere else in one of my other bags. So all my credit cards are never in one spot. So that if I get jammed up somewhere, like get my wallet stolen, I can still eat. So I separate things out. It's doing some of these things. You're planning for the worst and believing in the best.
So right now, I got robbed in Antigua, but I have my whole life story, my whole track record, all my references and testimonials from customers online publicly. So only if the internet goes down can I not be identified.
It's exactly right. Yeah. So I have a whole secure area for that sort of thing, Jason. It's very important. But preparing an itinerary is also important. The other thing I always do when I land, wherever I'm landing, I always text my wife to let her know that I've landed. So she knows where I am, and it gives her a peace of mind. But also the fact that she knows I've gone to the next stage of my itinerary because it's sitting on the refrigerator at home. And she goes, okay, he'll be home in 3 days or something like that. And I always do that.
Michael, you know what I do too? Sometimes is I actually travel with a personal photo. Like I don't tell my wife in advance. So I'll put the photo or something fun and I put it up in the hotel room when I'm there, even though it's one night, and I take a photo of it.
Exactly.
You know, those personal touches matter. We haven't really talked about the family and how they're impacted by travel, but we are 100% out of time, Michael. We're out of time.
Oh my gosh.
Jason had one too, though.
But my business has been my spouse, but I'm going to get away soon. I saw my baby being born the other day in a dream.
Then you're learning some tips here when you travel, and you got to bring a photo, and you got to take a photo of the photo. And then but connecting back with your family is such an important concept. And sometimes when I first traveled, I never understood that. And now I do. And I understand how it impacts my family when I do travel. Michael, last words.
Yeah, look, go to Startup Club. There's the article there with 15 sort of entrepreneur travel hacks. Colin, I feel like I need to write another one, which is a part 2 or something like that. Because the more I'm thinking about it, there's more things I just automatically do after being traveling for the last 40 years. And I just don't think about it. And I just automatically do these things, and they streamline your travel so much. I take this view that the more you plan on the ground, the better you are when you're actually traveling. Yeah, so the better you are when you're traveling. And I'm meticulous about planning and things like that. And you've seen, Colin and Michelle, you've seen the way I travel. like the size of the bags and all that sort of
Oh, yeah.
stuff. And it's pretty grueling what I do. I'm now 60 and I'm thinking maybe I'll just take a little bit more time to enjoy the scenery along the way.
What a concept. That wasn't a hack we talked about. We didn't talk about the real living hacks
Yeah.
as you travel on
Yeah.
business to but we talked about the little things. Yeah.
It's really hard work. Like I said, this last trip I was on was probably the worst and the worst I've ever done, which is saying something.
The older you get,
Yeah,
the
which is-
harder it gets.
Yeah, but it wasn't just that with this one. It was just some of the things like there was like in Frankfurt Airport, for instance, there was probably 2,000 people in a queue. Thank goodness I wasn't number 2,000 in a queue to get through immigration at Frankfurt Airport. And there was one gate open. And it was just nuts like that. It was flights were canceled. So rescheduling flights and that sort of thing. And just the number of miles I ended up traveling and everything. I remember getting to your place, Colin, and thank goodness the hot tub was there. Seriously, like my body was done.
And I think this
It
show
was
is
really
done
cool.
too, Michael. You killed it. You
Yeah.
wrote a great article. It's #1 on Google. Michelle's cheering in the background here.
More
Yeah.
miles than anyone I've ever
You
met.
come in from Australia. Yeah.
My line. How many millions of miles do you have on your
Millions.
I
3
actually
million,
don't
5
know
million?
any longer. Yeah, it's put this way, and I've spent a lot of points over the years. I have right now, just on One World, I don't know what I've got on Star Alliance. I got like 1.2 million.
I know
frequent
we have
flyer
many,
points.
so I have no provided. That's it.
Yeah, I think it's
Right.
probably close to 5 million. Yeah, it'd be that.
Yeah.
5 million miles.
Let's
It's-
close it
it's-
out, Michael. We got to close it
Okay,
out.
cheers. Okay, thanks a lot for that.
Tomorrow, by the way, 2:00 Eastern, if you join us, we're talking about AI agents. That's pretty fun. And the book, Starscale Laser, hit the top 10 today in the United
It
States.
Well done.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
in
Okay.
multiple categories. So we're pretty excited. I did a podcast on Entrepreneurs on Fire and it lit up the book again. So happy to see it in the top 10, being back on the top 10. And if you haven't already get a copy of Starscale Laser Repeat, thank you for
Great
listening
book.
to The
I've read
Complete
it.
Entrepreneur. Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, it's a fabulous book. Seriously, if you're listening to some podcast or even in the audience right here, go and get the book. It's awesome. Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat by Colin Campbell. And it's great to have him be the co-host of the show, The Complete Entrepreneur. And Jason, it's always fabulous having you up on the stage as well. Thank you for being here as well. And we look forward to seeing everyone at the same time next Thursday on The Complete Entrepreneur. God bless you all.